Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. We are going to do week 2 of Mountain Dulcimer. Now, don't get too caught up in the name or anything like that. I had to name it something, and my week 1 was just your beginner, first time touching it kind of thing through. It could take you through several weeks. So this will just be a follow-up to that as we progress and go on. It doesn't mean you're in week 2. I had to name it something, okay? So let me move the camera down and everything, and we'll talk and go through our next steps, okay? Here we go. Okay, now, what do we do when we first go to play our dulcimer? We tune it. All right, so we're just going to make sure that we're in tune, okay? Then, okay, so you've went through that week 1 video and learned to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. And you've been introduced to the metronome and you've been introduced to some strumming. Okay, so now what we're going to do, well, we're going to do several things here. But when you're picking your songs to learn, when you're first starting out, I would advise you to pick simple songs that you know the melody to. A lot of times those are children's songs because that's kind of what you grew up with and maybe sing to your children or your grandchildren. You're familiar with those tunes, okay? It doesn't mean we're going to stay with those, but those are easier to pick up because you already know the melody of the song. So they're very good to start out with as beginners. Okay, so this time we're going to work on Skip to My Lou. Now, this is going to incorporate a whole bunch of different things. So I want you to take it really slow when you're doing it. But we're going to do some single notes. We're going to do some chords. Don't be afraid of that. You can do it. We're going to do some sliding. And we're going to use our little thumb. So one thing I want to do before we start that is I want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe and tap that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos I have coming out. Okay, let's go. Skip to My Lou. All right. So I'm going to play through the song slowly to begin with. Then I'll put the tablature up for you and we'll go from there. Here we go. Try to listen for the melody of the song where you can hear it and Lou, Lou, skip to my Lou, where you can hear it. Okay. Okay, we had a whole lot going on in that song. So let's get the graphic up of the first 2 measures and we'll play through that and talk through it, okay? So we start out there on the 2nd fret with a single note and an out strum. Then an open melody note and an out strum. Okay? Then we go back to that 2nd fret again and we're going to do a slide this time. We're going to do a single note, out strum, slide. So we're just doing out stroke, strum, out stroke, strum. But what you heard in between there was this little slide and it sounds really nice. That's one of our embellishments that we use a lot. So I want you to get used to sliding your finger. Okay? So you're going to have to play around with the pressure that you press down. You don't want to be pressing into it to where you're going to hurt yourself. And you don't want to be dampening it. So you need to play around with that. If you press down too hard, it's going to feel like your finger is banging against these frets. We want it to be kind of a soft glide feeling. So you pluck the note, let the pressure off just a touch to slide, and then press it down a little bit more when you get to where you're going. Okay? You'll just have to work with that. All right, so I'm going to play through the first two measures now. All right. All right. Now let's go to the next two measures. All right, so we begin here with our first chord that we are pressing down with more than one finger. Okay, so this is an A chord, and we do that by doing 101. So we're pressing down the first fret of the bass string and the first fret of the melody string. Now, you can use different fingers to do this, but for me, the most comfortable thing to do is put that ring finger down on the melody note and my middle finger up here on the bass string. So that gives me lots of room here for this glorious thumb to move around, and even my index. Okay, I could hit things all over the place if I needed to, and you will as you play. Okay, so let's start there. I'll play through the first measure. That's the first measure, and see, I've already made use of that thumb. Okay, let me play through the second measure. And I've made use of the thumb again. So if you didn't already notice, in both of these measures, we are holding down this 101 A chord the entire time. All right, so we start out with the 101. Then we just hit our melody string, and that's still holding down that bottom fret. So it's... Then we bring our index finger down to the second fret and hit that string, the middle string only, and then we strum the chord. And then we lift that up and hit the melody string again at the first fret, our 101 chord. Then we take this thumb and put it down at the third fret, which makes a 103 chord. But I would advise you leave that down back here because you're gonna, you get more leverage out of it if you do that. Okay, now I'm gonna play slowly through those two measures again, and I'm gonna put your tabs up there for you. Let's do that again. Okay, now for the next two measures. Let me play through them. Now, did that look familiar to you or sound familiar to you? If it did, that's good because that was our first two measures. So we're repeating the first two measures again. Now this time I did it a little bit differently. I didn't start with that index finger. I started with the thumb. Then I moved to the index finger to do my slide. Let's put the graphic back up. And here we go. We're going to play through this slowly. That was all with the index finger. Now this time I'm going to start with the thumb. Here we go. You have options as to what you want to do, but the thing that we did directly before this measure was this right here. So this is pretty easy to get to by just doing that. And that, I just want you to start thinking about these things. We want to use this fretboard and our fingers. We want to use this fretboard and the placement of our fingers in unison, and we want them to be smooth. So that's kind of how we get started with that. All right, so the last two measures sound like this. Okay, now one thing I want you to recognize is that I'm ringing out this 101 chord and doing stuff, picking. So you could still hear the ringing out of this chord while I was doing other things, okay? And that's important. We want to be able to hear our chords ringing out while we're doing that, okay? So we start with 101. I'll put the graphic up. We start with that A chord again, and we get to use our thumb. We go to the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, and that's the first measure. Then we just lift up to where that is still down. That's one option. Okay, you could lift up like that. Or you could continue sliding that thumb. All right. I want you to recognize that you have options, but let's play through that again slowly. I'll put the tab up. Here we go. All right. Now, let's put the entire tab page up. This may get rid of me for the most part. You should be able to see a little bit of something. But let's put the whole tab up and play through it 2 times together, okay? And we'll count in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, ready, go is what we'll count in, okay? So here we go slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. Again. Okay, that was 2 times through the song. Now, okay, so what do you do from here? What I want you to do is just play this song a bunch. Play it along with me, play it along on screen, play it by yourself. I've given you the tabs on screen. If you'd like a set to print off, I do request that you join Patreon for that. In order to keep these free lessons going and all the work that I put into it, I just ask that small thing from you. And again, you don't need that. It's up here for you. But if you do want your own set to print off, you can go ahead and take a look below at the link for Patreon. So another thing to do is once you have this song memorized, and you can memorize it from the video, is turn on your metronome and start playing along with that metronome and get used to that tick. Okay? A nice slow speed to start out with. And now I'm going to show you a little bit more. This would go beyond week 2, but I'm leaving it in this video again for the reasons I said earlier. But to make this sound a little more interesting, I just did straight out strums. We can do some back strumming. Now, when I back strum, a lot of the times I'm not hitting all 4 strings. A lot of the times I'm just nicking that bass string on the way back. Maybe sometimes I hit the middle as well. But you can't really practice this just by doing this. It's kind of like you have to go out, and when you come back, let's see if I can get an angle on this. When you come back, it's almost like an up. Just a slight up. Can you hear how I'm emphasizing that bass string and not strumming all the way through it? You know, I'm not strumming all the way through it. Okay, so that is something to start practicing and trying out and seeing if you like. I'll play through the song like this and you can just hear some of the things that I do to make it sound a little nicer. Okay, so that's just a few of the things we can do there. And I showed you your first embellishment, and that is that slide. Sounds really pretty, doesn't it? We got our first 2-finger chords there with the 101 and the 103. All right, let me move the camera back up and we'll talk some more. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that lesson on Skip to My Lou. There's really a lot there. I know it's just a simple nursery rhyme type of song, but there's a lot going on there and you can learn a lot from this video. Going from your single notes to your full strums and back and forth. We want to emphasize those single notes so that you can really hear that melody. Starting out on some 2-finger chords, that 101 and the 103 that we did. And as well as beginning to do a small embellishment of that back strum where I just sort of nick that bass string on the way back. It makes for a pleasant sound. Better than just an out strum with nothing else added to it. So go ahead and try those things and let me know down below if you're enjoying these lessons and if you're getting something out of them. I'd like to continue doing them, but if I don't get, good feedback with it, then I'll just do other things. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. And before I go, I always want to remind you that Jesus loves you. Bye-bye.